Colleges often use the ACT or the SAT to determine whether to admit the student or determine how much scholarship money that will be awarded to the student. Colleges on the East and West Coast use the SAT and other colleges use the ACT. The Oxford Dictionary defines the SAT as Scholastic Aptitude Test, which is a test of a student's verbal and mathematical skills. It is used for admission to American colleges. The ACT test seeks to predict how current students will perform in courses commonly taken by college students. Both tests are considered by most colleges a valid assessment. However, other sources beg to differ. These dissenting sources would most likely support the view that standardized tests, such as the ACT and SAT, should be abolished because of all the problems that they have. There are many problems with the ACT and the SAT tests. Many of us have taken the ACT before, but there are many things you do not know about this test. The first problem with this test is that it is biased. According to fairtest.org in 2010, ACT scores are directly related to family income. The richer the student's parents are, the higher the average scores. According to ACT research, when all factors are equal, such as coursework, grades, and family income, whites still outscore other groups besides Asian Americans. Boys score slightly higher than girls across all races, even though boys score lower grades in high school and college when matched for identical courses. Here is a chart of comparing the SAT and the ACT scores. And then here's a chart of the females and males ACT scores. Research shows that a fast-paced multiple choice format favors males over females. Guessing a risk males are more likely to take is rewarded. Since multiple choice items do not allow for shades of meaning, they work against the most typical female thinking style. Another problem with the ACT is that it is not a very accurate test. In fact, adding the ACT to the high school record does not significantly improve predictions. One study at Chicago State University confirmed that the ACT is inaccurate. For the majority of the university's graduates who scored in the middle range of the test as high school students, the ACT explained only 3.6% of differences in college GPAs. The ACT regularly underestimates the abilities of females who earn higher grades than males in college. The ACT also does a poor job of predicting the college performance for students of color. Here is a chart of ACT scores with races. Here we go. One study conducted at a medium-sized regional university in the Southeast showed that the ACT explained only 8.6% of the differences in the first semester college grades for African Americans, while for whites the ACT predicted approximately 28% differences. High school grades predicted equally well for both groups. The ATC scores are also imprecise. The individual tests have large margins of error. The margin of error on each subject's 1 to 36 points scale is 1.55 points for English, 1.43 in mathematics, 2.2 in reading, and 1.75 in science. In other words, if students retake the exam, there would be about two-thirds chance that their score would be 1.55 points higher or lower on the English test than on the one before. According to nationaljournal.com of 2014, the SAT, like the ACT, shows that people with higher incomes get better test results. Here is a chart with the SAT scores and people with higher incomes. This is because the SAT test preps are really expensive, so that poor people cannot afford to buy them. SAT test prep can cost hundreds of thousands of dollars, but the students who can least afford it are the ones who need the help most. This chart shows clearly that as family income increases, so does the scores on the exam. There is a 400-point gap between the poorest and richest students. One problem with the SAT is the essay section, which was added to the test in 2005, according to Slate.com of 2014. It counts for 30% of a test taker's score on the writing section. Test takers have only 25 minutes to write a submission that will be scored on a scale of 1 to 6. No scratch paper is provided for outlining or essay planning. Test takers have to write even if they don't know anything about the topic, so they have to make it up or pretend like they know. Graders don't even have time to look up facts or check if an especially uncommon word actually exists, so the writer can write whatever they want pretty much. What they are really measuring is the ability to spew forth as many words as possible in a short amount of time. Another problem with the SAT is that it is culturally biased, as said in WashingtonMonthly.com in 2010. In 1987, research psychologist Roy Friedel first argued that the test put African American students at a disadvantage. The Education Testing Service, which administers the test, said he was wrong. Now today, there is little more proof that Friedel might be right. They researched and found that disadvantaged black students do better on hard questions which contain large words with hard meanings. African Americans do worse, however, on easy questions, which are mostly made up of simple words. This is because simpler words tended to have more meanings, and in some cases different meanings in white middle-class neighborhoods than they had in underprivileged minority neighborhoods. While the ACT was originally designed to eliminate bias and predict the grades of all potential applicants, regardless of background, high school students and their parents have long understood that the SAT is just an IQ test that doesn't really predict much of anything. Now that we have looked at all the problems, there are also solutions of these tests. According to mckendry.edu of 2010, one way would be to have schools fight back against these standardized tests, if that many people were really against this. Educators could decide, for example, not to give the test, but parents and students, but this position holds risk for the school, the educators, and most importantly, the children and families could easily result in having fewer options. There is also another option for this solution. While prep courses help the students score well on the SAT or ACT without taking away valuable class time, they are still a method of compliance. Perhaps teachers could punish journal articles displaying the problems of using standardized tests as a measurement for students. Even this might not work because it comes with consequences that could hurt the school or the teachers. But maybe convincing the test makers is where people against standardized testing fall short. Instead of trying to convince the test makers, teachers and students, and all those opposed of the ACT and SAT, should try to convince colleges that using the ACT and SAT is not a good way to judge somebody. This process would take time, but if every college ignored ACT and SAT scores, the number of students taking the test would gradually decrease. Another solution would obviously be to fix the test. In 2016, according to nationaljournal.com of 2014, there is to be a new SAT test. It is designed to reflect more knowledge. The new vocabulary reflects words more commonly used in college classrooms. The essay that was introduced in 2005 will now become optional, and a perfect score will once again be 1,600 instead of 2,400. Math questions will focus more on equations, and the reading score sections will include more science and American history tests. In addition, fee waivers for low-income students who will be able to send their scores to 4 colleges free of charge. According to fairtest.org of 2010, states that test scores should be optional on college admissions. The nearly 400 colleges and universities that already admit substantial numbers of freshman applicants without regard to test scores have shown that class-ranked high school grades and rigor of classes taken are better tools for predicting college success than any standardized test. People should be judged on how hard they work in school and not how good they do on just some test that has these many issues. The ACT and SAT are made to determine academic achievement or aptitude. Unfortunately, this is not always the case. These standardized tests have too many problems, as you can see, to be trusted. For example, these tests are biased, inaccurate, and unfair to certain people. This is why colleges today should not only rely on standardized testing to determine a student's capabilities because of all the problems they have.